What area? I don't know.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. This is a special board meeting workshop, and I'd like to call that to order right now. First and foremost, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Butte County Office of Education for this meeting space. This is our first time that we are meeting here, so we're hoping it will be convenient and a successful evening and all goes well. So um, it's kind of our trial run, and we're hoping it's going to work for everyone. Somewhat of the intent was to free up the Marigold space so that they could continue to use that for school purposes. So hopefully this all works well. So also I want to mention that this meeting is live streamed and recorded. At this time, I would like everyone to stand for the flag salute. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation, God, visible. Okay. Um, this time, we're going to be moving on to the consent calendar. Um, are there any board members at this time who have a technical question for clarification purposes? Would anyone like to pull an item from consent calendar?
No, but I'm excited to see Chico High going to Sonoma State. I think that's awesome.
Um,
If we approve it.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I so move.
Second?
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second this evening. Do we want to discuss this at all at this time? All right, since this is our first vote of the evening, let's start with you, Member Hayes.
Hayes, aye.
Olson, I.
Conkin, aye.
Lando, I.
Robinson, I.
All right. So we all are in favor, 5-0. So that passes the consent calendar. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Typically at this time, we'd be moving on to our board workshop topic, but I noticed there's a lot of speakers here this evening. So I wanted to just at this time see if we could possibly suspend our normal routine, our normal schedule, and be open to hearing from speakers at this time. Is that something we could possibly do? Greg?
So, Madam President, may I make a
Yeah.
motion?
Yes.
I'd like to move that we suspend the rules just enough to move agenda item 4A to the top of the agenda and have that discussion now.
I second that.
Okay. So can you restate?
Yeah, I move that we move agenda item 4A, which is the discussion, action regarding agendizing a discussion about our camera system. I'd like to move that to immediately after this motion, the next item that we'll discuss in the agenda.
Okay. You'll second that? All right. So let's go ahead and vote on that. Since we are all in favor, or we were all in agreement last time, let's just vote at this time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, so we will be moving, let's see, 4A, discussion action. This is basically our board member request to agendize a discussion regarding the purchase and contract for Riverside Technologies camera and video surveillance system refresh using Vercata technology. Let's see here. So at this time,
Tom,
Tom, do you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me okay? The acoustics are so different here. I can't
I
tell if
know,
my
it
mic
is
is
different.
working. Okay, cool. So this was an item that was on the consent calendar, December 17th. And the item on the consent calendar was just a quote. And I'll be honest, I didn't know exactly, I didn't have all the details about what we're getting into. And I would like to just know more about exactly the extent of that contract, what kind of services we are going to be engaging in through either Riverside or Bracada, and to have a more nuanced discussion, especially in light of the fact that there's been a lot of public comment regarding concern about facial recognition and the use of AI in tracking people. And I think that's totally reasonable concern. So I just like to have a discussion more in depth about what that contract looks like and whether and how we can modify it if we need to.
At
I
this-
second that motion to agendize this for February 18th, correct?
So we have a motion by member Lando, a second by member Hayes. So at this time, are there any board members who have questions just specifically regarding agendizing this item? Yes.
Would the Riverside Technologies be available at that board meeting, Mr. Superintendent?
a company representative? Are you asking if a company representative will be available?
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that question. I can ask, but I can't tell you if one would be available or not right now, unfortunately.
I think that would be important. Our questions will be about things that they would have information on. So if you could work on that so that that company is available at that meeting.
If you all vote to have it at that meeting, I will inquire.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the idea of putting this on the agenda? Okay, so at this time, we're going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. And looks like we have one student this evening. Is he here? Oscar? Awesome. Thanks, Oscar.
And then I just want to remind everybody, Madam President, that we have 3 minutes and that Mr. Shepherd will be doing the timing and he will ring that bell at 30 seconds to let you know that you have 30 more seconds to go, okay? So unfortunately, this is our brand new situation. We don't have a clock up on the wall. We're coming up. So thank you, Oscar, for being here.
And Oscar, also, I wanted to let you know, along with the other speakers tonight, we are super interested in hearing everything that everybody has to say. Unfortunately, this is not our opportunity to respond to each of the comments, but we really value the fact that you're here. And we'll have hopefully a robust discussion soon about this, but we can't specifically respond. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Hello, my name is Oscar Bergman. I'm a senior at Chico High. And last week I learned about how the board is planning to install a new surveillance system at my school and other schools in the district. My public speaking teacher shared with our class that this new system will upgrade our current one by using special cameras that collect people's biometric data with AI facial recognition technology. We also learned the installation of these cameras would cost the school district almost $2 million. My classmates and I expected an explanation for this decision. However, the reasons to implement a new security system were never explicitly provided to the general public, or if it wasn't made obvious enough. Nobody knew the board's intent, and even now it's still unclear. So today, I wish to advocate for more transparency between the school board and stakeholders in this development. I am by no means against a better surveillance system. Everyone on campus deserves to feel safe and secure. But before we invest in an entirely new system, it should be demonstrated that we really need it. especially with such an expensive project. What is wrong with our current surveillance system? What makes this project a top priority over other issues on my campus? The B-Wing bathrooms at Chico High just finished getting remodeled this past summer and are already severely vandalized by students, with costs around $30,000 to fix them. Funds going towards a new surveillance system could be easily spent on the real and urgent concern for fixing our bathrooms, which have personally affected me and other students. And while a new surveillance system could catch vandalizers on camera, how much better could it really be than our current system? Is it really worth $2 million? I'm curious about the rationale behind installing a new surveillance system, and I request for more transparency among stakeholders in future projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have a few more speakers this evening. I'd like to call up Mark Kessler. He's here. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mark Kessler. I'm a science teacher at Chico High School, and I'm here representing a group of teachers concerned about the new surveillance system. So according to common interpretations of the California Brown Act, customarily the consent agenda is used for routine, non-controversial items such as minutes, contract renewals, and procedural resolutions that require no discussion and are approved in a single vote. Placing high-profile or controversial items on a consent agenda or calendar, as you call it, undermines the transparency required by the Act. This only said camera and video surveillance system refresh. That's using Verkada. That's the only thing that the consent agenda said. And I noticed you passed a consent calendar today with no discussion, and that's how this was passed. And it's not the first time. Magic School is an AI system, and I would say that is the most controversial thing at school this year among teachers and parents. And yet it was also passed on the consent agenda. These are really important issues. Technology is moving really fast. We live in an environment where things are rapidly changing in the world of AI, and we need to discuss them. Our group is requesting, number one, that you rescind the contract with Riverside and that you assemble a board committee of parents, teachers, students, administrators, and a board member to an emerging technology committee to review these issues before they're brought to the board. I would like, we would like it to be a board committee because a board committee is under the auspices of the Brown Act. So it would have to be open to the public and agendized so that people could attend and give public comment, different than an administrative committee. I think, I think we can admit it was controversial. It's not a renewal of a contract. It's a brand new contract. I would also say there is one silver lining in that because last thing, I did a quick ChatGPT of Verkada, and I asked for which of these surveillance systems are best for protecting civil rights, and this is what it said: the large Verkada package tends to be considered one to avoid or approach with strong caution if your priority is privacy or civil rights protection, especially in schools. Their own marketing and privacy statements emphasize built-in privacy features. However, those security and privacy features are only as strong as the implementation of the governance of the customer, and that's you guys, the customer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but Elisa K? Elisa? Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak, and just like you heard last time, there will be a bell when you have 30 seconds remaining. Thank you.
My name is Elisa Kissling. I'm here tonight as a parent and a community member who is deeply concerned about this contract, specifically with Verkada I can't pronounce it, security cameras and facial recognition technology. I want to begin with the documented facts about Verkada that should deeply concern anyone considering entrusting this company with access to our children and our staff. Verkada was founded in 2016. In August of 2019, a sales director in that company used their facial recognition cameras to photograph female colleagues without their knowledge or consent, and then posted those images in a private Slack channel named Raw Verkada Dogs with extremely explicit sexual commentary. 10 male employees participated in this channel, posting sexually graphic content targeting multiple female employees. When reported to Human Resources, the CEO gave all the participants a choice: accept, resign, or accept reduced stock options. All 10 chose to remain employed. No one was terminated. The person who posted the original harassing content still works there today. 3 employees were terminated in October of 2020, 9 months later, and only terminated following national media exposure. This is the culture of the company you want to entrust with our children's safety. In December of 2020, hackers were able to install malware on their servers after an employee failed to restore security settings. The intrusion went undetected for 3 weeks because of their lack of centralized login and alerting capabilities. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Independent cybersecurity firms provided specific remediation recommendations, which they ignored. According to the FTC complaint, they failed to implement these recommendations prior to a subsequent breach. This is the company you want to entrust our children's safety to. In March of 2021, hackers were again able to exploit vulnerabilities in their customer support server and were able to gain administrative level access to over 150,000 live camera feeds across more than 6,000 customer locations. The compromised footage included psychiatric hospitals, women's health clinics, elementary schools, prison cells, police interrogation rooms. This is the company you want to entrust with our children's safety. Following that 2021 breach, over 100 employees were granted super admin access privileges accidentally, and they were able to access security cameras. I only have a couple of minutes. In August of 2024, the FTC, through the Department of Justice, sued them, and they had to pay $2.95 million in civil penalties for allowing
Okay,
their
thank you
system
very
to be
much.
hacked.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we have another speaker, Joe Asnall.
Good evening. My name is Joe Osnalt. I'm an English teacher at Chico High School, and we all want to feel safe at school. But I'm questioning whether or not this $1.9 million is really going to greatly improve the safety and security at our school sites. And honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure. And as a stakeholder, I am unaware of the program's merits. I'm unaware of the system's or the district's rationale behind purchasing this system. I am, though, confident that Chico Unified does have staff and student safety in mind with the thinking of this system. However, it honestly gives me Orwellian chills down my spine that millions of dollars of CUSD's tight budget money is going to be purchasing this system and storing our biometric data. So the question is then, do these funds come from the general fund? Are they coming from grant funded sources of funding? And again, I have no idea. As a stakeholder, I have no information because there have been no community discussions about it. However, a general fund, grant fund, doesn't matter. Would it serve our campus communities better to work on more preventative measures rather than these invasive ones with this facial recognition technology, to support our students and staff rather than alienate them, and to instill a sense of trust in our school's leadership and our district's leadership rather than a sense that Big Brother is watching us. Perhaps increased counseling services, campus supervisors, mental health services, programs to build school community and trust would be money better spent rather than at the invasive systems proposed. Last Thursday, I had conversations with my two public speaking classes. And frankly, they were shocked. And they were shocked at a lot of things. Number one, at the cost. Number two, at the wonderment at whether or not we really need this type of a system, this upgrade. And they were baffled at the lack of involvement that they had in the decision-making process, especially with such ethical and legal ramifications. So again, I ask, is this system going to greatly improve safety and security at our schools? I don't know. Hopefully we can get answers to that. I hope the school board and the district administration can reconsider this contract in some way, shape, or form. Because as we might hear tonight, the benefits of this upgrade might not outweigh the costs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, at this time, is Abby Ott here? Thank you. Just as a reminder, 3 minutes, the little bell will signify 30 seconds remaining. Thanks for coming tonight.
Good evening. My name is Abby Ott. I'm speaking tonight first as a parent of two young daughters who attend schools in Chico Unified, and second as a teacher at Chico High. Like my friends and colleagues, I'm here to express my concern and frankly bewilderment with this decision to adopt this facial recognition surveillance technology on our campuses without soliciting any input from the students and the parents and the staff members who will be impacted. Some of what I have to say overlaps with what Ms. Kiesling shared a moment ago, but I think it bears repeating. If you open the Wikipedia page for Verkada Technologies, you will find that the largest section you are greeted with is the one labeled controversies. A few of the greatest hits include the following. Number one, in 2020, a group of male staff members in leadership positions at Verkada used the company's own facial recognition systems to sexually harass and stalk their female employees. Secondly, additionally, independent testing of Verkada's facial recognition systems installed in public housing units has found that they have a false positive rate of up to 85%. And these false positive matches, according to reporting from the Washington Post, have been shown to leading vulnerable people to be cited and even evicted from public housing by their landlords. Most alarmingly, they've had a series of data breaches. Recently in 2024, security failures at Verkada enabled hackers to access live video feeds from 150,000 locations employing Verkada cameras. The hacked feeds, as previously stated, included footage from prisons, psychiatric hospitals, women's health clinics, and you guessed it, schools. And the hackers explored the videos for hours, downloaded footage, and went 2 weeks with no one at Verkada noticing the breach at all. The hackers then self-reported their hack to law enforcement, which is the only reason we know. And Verkada was sued by the US Department of Justice for $3 million. Finally, a few clicks on Verkada's website also reveal that they advertise as a safety perk their cooperation with law enforcement. They say that in an emergency, Verkada can grant law enforcement agencies access to their cameras, meaning Verkada can grant access to our cameras on our campuses, potentially without us even knowing. While this might be handy in a hypothetical emergency, this also means an agency such as ICE, for example, could go through Verkada to grant access, to receive access to footage on our campuses. They could do this without our permission or even our knowledge. In summary, Chico Unified is choosing to open the doors of our schools to a company that is known specifically for harassment, faulty technology, and data breaches. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, at this time, is Kendall Smith here?
Good evening. My name is Kendall Smith, and I want to first thank the board for their time and their service. I'm speaking tonight as a teacher, a colleague, and a member of this community. I have two core concerns. Number one, the impact AI surveillance has on school climate. And number two, the very real flaws and harms associated with this technology. Schools and classrooms are not just physical spaces to me. They are relational spaces. School is my second home. And like any healthy home, learning depends on trust, curiosity, and students feeling safe enough to be human. When students know they are under constant AI surveillance, that climate changes. Research from the University of Michigan and other education scholars shows that surveillance normalizes fear and compliance, not engagement. Students self-censor, creativity drops, emotional safety erodes. I've been teaching for nearly a decade, and I know students rise or fall to the expectations that we set. I also know that everything speaks, even the things left unsaid. When we introduce this level of surveillance, we are sending an unspoken message. You are already suspect. That message lands hardest on our most vulnerable students, students of color, students with disabilities, and students with trauma histories. We know all too well that these are the same people who already experience excessive and unfair discipline in schools. There are also serious undocumented flaws with AI surveillance systems. Facial recognition technology has been shown by researchers at MIT and National Institute of Standards and Technology to be significantly less accurate for people of color, children, and individuals with disabilities. False positives are not hypothetical. They happen. And when they do, the consequences are very real. Increased scrutiny, disciplinary escalation, and emotional harm to students who have done nothing wrong. Even when introduced for safety, surveillance systems are highly vulnerable to crossing personal and professional boundaries in ways that are difficult to undo. What begins as monitoring can quietly expand into behavior tracking, discipline, and even staff oversight. Most importantly, surveillance does not prevent harm. It is reactive, not preventative. The evidence is clear. The most effective school safety measures are relationship-based. This means investing more in quality mental health support, counseling, trusted adults, and a strong school culture. I respectfully urge the board to pause this decision, listen to educators and families, and seriously ask whether AI surveillance aligns with the kinds of schools we want to teach in and send our children to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right. At this time, are there any other members in our public that would like to comment? Okay, go ahead. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Alicia Olivia Lapp. I'm running for governor of California. I'm here to protect the safety and rights of our children. I'm concerned with overreach not only at school but across the board. If anyone has any concerns or questions for me after this meeting, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Okay. So we actually went a little out of order with this, but we already have a motion on the table and a second um, to agendize this item for a future meeting. Is there any board discussion at this time regarding putting this on the agenda for a near future meeting?
So I do, and I hope it's not going to mess everybody's systems up too much, but it really feels like two different issues. One about the specific contract and one about how we use the consent calendar. I want to make sure we have time to talk about both of those things. I know that the request that was put on today to agendize was specifically about the contract, but I would wonder if the board might be open to also agendizing at some point in the future a conversation about how we decide what goes on consent versus our discussion action item agenda. I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but is it okay if we have, sorry, I see it.
Well, I was just going to say, I do see this as two separate things. And so I think we need to vote on the motion on the floor, in my opinion, that whether or not to agendize the discussion for the 18th. And I think your other point is a valid one, but I think we have to follow the rules of the board, where we would write up a formal, I mean, this is what I would, this is what I think, is that you'd write it up and say, should there be a discussion about what goes on consent calendar, but that would be a completely separate motion to agendize.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be a separate item. Um, depending on the will of the board, we could, I mean, the use of the form in this part of the agenda to do that are, things we can change at any time. I'm not saying, suggesting we necessarily want to do that. We'll see. Let's move on the motions on the table right now, unless anybody has more discussion about that.
Does anyone from the board have any more discussion? Do you want to comment or discuss?
I concur with Board Member Hayes that it is two separate issues. We have procedures for how to separate things into the consent calendar, and if they need adjusting, that would be a whole different discussion and topic.
Right, and I think we are already sort of in the works of that right now. Any other discussion points? Okay, I think at this time I'd like to go ahead and just we vote individually if that's okay. Okay. And we'll start with you, Hayes. So we are voting right now on the motion to agendize, speaking about the technology with what we were just talking about physically. Okay, we'll start with you, Hayes.
Hayes, aye.
Olson, I.
Conkin, aye.
Lando, aye.
Robinson, I.
Okay. So with a vote of 5-0, this passes. We will be, I know we can't at this time exactly specify what date that will be, but we're all very aware of the concern. So I can say we're hoping to do that sooner rather than later. I mean, Greg, should we say a date at this time, or should we just go ahead and say in the very near future?
Well, I think it's safe to say we're going to do our darndest to get this on the February 18th regular meeting.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, real fast. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Just for the public, that means the Friday before February 18th, the agenda will come out. So check that when it comes out, and you can sign up to get those emailed to you as well to make sure that it is on that meeting. And if not, we'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you so much for everybody who showed up this evening. You are certainly more than welcome to stay, but we also understand that there's students here this evening and teachers as well. So if you would like to go at this time, you're perfectly welcome to do that. But we are going to go back to our regularly scheduled schedule. And let's see, let me just pop back in. We're going to be moving on to our board workshop topic tonight. This is informational. And we're going to be talking about basically student achievement data. And Tim Karras will be doing that this evening. Thanks for coming and presenting.
Yeah, thank you for having me here to speak about our California State Dashboard results. I have a lot of great news to share tonight. Before we get started, I want to thank board members Hayes and Lando for their meeting time and phone calls and providing input throughout the process of the creation of this presentation. I also want to introduce some people that played a large part in some of the successes that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is our MTSS leads. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. I'm going to turn around here. Erica Blaschke, Doug Hesse, English at PV, English at Marsh, Jeff Reed, Science at Chico High, Jamie Gordon, Heather Keller, Camille Upton, Math at Chico High, Melanie Perrin, Math at Chico Junior, Michelle Long, Math at Bidwell. So thank you all for coming. They're here to chime in should questions arise. All right. Okay, so first of all, just a little bit about the dashboard. It started in 2017, and we've been living with it ever since, and it develops each year. The state board makes changes throughout each year that show up on the dashboard. This is our our primary accountability tool. It's the report card that we have for the public. And every single district and site in California receives a dashboard. And so this is for public accountability, and there's also federal and state accountability that I'll talk about at the end. We are required to share this with you. And so that's what we're doing tonight. Also, new this year is a science indicator. So the science indicator has been included. It is not part of the accountability systems that I mentioned. It's here for informational purposes at this time. Lots of speculation that the state board will add it this year as a part of the accountability piece, but the board needs to act on that. All right, so what do we use it for? We measure progress towards our LCAP goals. We have every dashboard metric you're going to see tonight is included in our LCAP, and we look to the dashboard to evaluate our programs. So general planning, funding allocations, we look at the data from the dashboard. This data is also involved in grant applications, grant evaluations, and we provide this data to our it says educational partner input, our families and communities. We'll be doing that beginning next month. We also have added a new piece to our analysis from the analysis that you see up there, and that is data chats. So district office administrators have gone out to every school in Chico Unified this fall, and will do so again this spring, to talk through the data, to talk through, like, for example, last year's test results that we'll talk about today, and also look at some of these the real-time versions of these indicators. So we're not looking at suspension rate for the first time, in May when the year ends. We're looking at it throughout the year. So our intent is to make the data more usable and closer to real time. Okay. So I mentioned tonight's a huge celebration. It is affirming of the work that is being done at our sites. Across the board, our site administrators, our teachers, our classified staff, counselors, everybody has a part in this. You can see, and I'll go through these indicators in a moment, but it's not just test scores. We do take into account suspension and chronic absenteeism, as well as graduation rate. So lots of folks have their hands in the processes that lead to this. So lots of people to celebrate. So as we look at the dashboard indicators, I'll go from the top down. We see chronic absenteeism. We are orange. I'll go into more details on all of these in a moment. Suspension rate, we are yellow. And before I move on, I'm going to explain the colors. Blue is good. That's the best. Red is bad. So it's intuitive, but doing my due diligence to explain. We want to be blue. We want to be at least green, but we shoot for blue. English learner progress, we are green. Graduation rate, green. College and career indicator, green. English language arts, green. And mathematics, yellow. And the math scores, yellow is actually we're still ahead of the state. Math scores around the state are lower overall than they are for ELA, and I'll talk more about that later. we are higher than the state in all of these metrics with the exception of college and career indicator and suspension rate. So as we go through the indicators, just want to say that, you know, this is why these folks are here. They put a lot of work into PD, into making decisions on what's presented to teachers, what kind of software teachers have access to, and general site leadership and making sure things are moving along at their site to improve instruction. We've done a major focus on tier 1 instruction. Tier 1 instruction meaning classroom instruction by the teacher. We have been very focused for a couple years on ensuring that our PD is centered around tier 1 instruction. We believe that the teacher-student relationship and the interactions are the most important. So the indicators I'm going to talk about, I'll talk about English language arts and math. Those are from our Smarter Balanced or CASP scores from last spring. English learner progress is based on the English language proficiency assessments for California, otherwise known as LCAP. The college and career indicator is a wide variety of metrics that go into this, including graduation, advanced placement levels, or advanced placement tests, I'm sorry, CASP results, CTE completion, other things, seal of biliteracy. It's a pretty broad set of criteria that kids can use to show they're college and career ready. Yes.
It's just me, but is it really, it's not really LCAP, is it? LPAC.
LPAC.
Thank you. I was like.
It's
okay,
it's
just
it's
wanted
not
to
just
make
you.
sure.
LPAC and
Yeah,
and LCAP
okay.
are
Okay.
frequently
Okay.
confused. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, so the way we get our colors, okay, this is a kind of a somewhat nuanced process, but for each of these magic indicators, we receive a status score. So for graduation rate, if that status score is 90%, that reflects last year's 90%. The change score reflects how much we grew or declined from the year prior. Okay, so we are laid out, we're given colors based on the 5x5 table that you see here. And just as an example, across the top is change. So you can see starting on the left, declined significantly. It gives a more details. So if you decline significantly and you go down and your status is judged as medium, where those two overlap, or that row and that column overlap, is yellow. So we're given yellow. So we're given credit, and this is why I think this is a wonderful measure. We're given credit for growth. And that's really what we look at in our, you know, as we discuss needs in the district. All right, so you can see here what this slide shows, and there's a slide like this for each indicator. Each student group's performance on, and this one is ELA, English Language Arts. You can see that we improved 4.1 points. We are very excited about that. We write our LCAP goals based on state expectations on the 5x5 you just saw. We want to increase by 3. So we exceeded our goal, and that's just a huge celebration for us. A lot has gone into that you'll hear about in a moment. So talking about each one of these little squares more in detail, you can see our status was medium. the 6.7 DFS, the acronym, that's what that means is distance from standard. So kids receive a scale score, and the DFS, or distance from standard, is the average for all students that took the test, and how close that is to meeting standard. Okay. The change score that we got was increased 4.1, which is what we were after. The metric below, the 70.3% of students improved, is a new measure that came out from the state this year for informational purposes. But what that means is that 70.3% of our students grew at the expected rate. Based on, so for third graders, third grader takes an English language arts test in third grade, and then in fourth grade. What the state does in the dashboard is they look at, okay, if the student scored this in third grade, when we look out across the state, we would expect this in fourth grade. And so we show good improvement. We don't have a lot of context. This is the first time. And we're unable to calculate this, but I see that number, and it's a celebration. All right, so compared to the state, we're 14.8 points higher than the state. We scored significantly better than other school districts that are comparable to ours based on demographics. Also, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, students with disabilities, African American, and 2 or more races increased substantially. If you look at socioeconomically disadvantaged there, you can see we increased 7.2 points, which far exceeds our goal. Students with disabilities, plus 8.3 points. So that's getting up near triple our goal. And those two student groups in particular are groups that I've talked about I've talked to you about, and the needs that they have, and how, you've heard how we're addressing their needs. So we're very, very happy with those results for those student groups. On the growth side, areas of growth, foster youth and homeless students did make progress in closing the achievement gap. Okay. So more work to be done. Okay, so the CASP tests, the state tests we take in spring, are not the only measure for student achievement. They are the ones, the state tests are what we're held accountable for, but we also administer local English assessments, local math assessments. And so a question came up during when we were putting together this, the workshop, how does it look? How do our local assessments look compared to our state test scores? And so here, what you can see is that in trimester 2, ending in February, we're pretty close to what we're going to score on CASP. An exception to that is third grade, which I believe is because it's the first time they've ever taken a test like this. But also gives us, we need to make them more comfortable. So these are used the local assessments are used for formative purposes in the classroom. They're primarily for teacher use. We do include some in the LCAP, but minimally. So academic improvements by school level, 9 of 12 elementary schools increased achievement. 4 of 5 comprehensive secondary sites increased achievement. Like the ones that didn't increase achievement have increased achievement prior. It's not a steady rise or steady decline. Generally, sites will go up and down. And 4 of 5 comprehensive secondary sites increased achievement.
So which of
Mhm.
the, just my knowledge, which of the comprehensive secondary sites was the one that didn't show an increased achievement this year?
Bidwell.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to why we think we got the scores that we did and what we're doing about the scores. So I'm going to introduce Heather Cifuentes to talk about elementary.
Good evening. So this is the really exciting part because this is where the rubber hits the road. And so this is when we look back at the reflection of what we've put in place to get to this point, to have so many celebrations and see that increase. Even within levels, we see schools increasing. They might not be jumping levels, but some of the parts that we've really focused on is a really intense focus in our MTSS and our Tier 1 instruction, providing specific professional development to all of our classroom teachers, TK through 5. We've honed in on literacy using the science of reading, having a framework for our Tier 1 instruction in the classroom. We have had ongoing refinement to that and shifted from learning what it is into also how do we apply literacy into different content areas and use the same tools and instructional models. Where we are in progress now, it doesn't end, we just keep going forward, is continuing to emphasize our content instruction. So that science, our math, and our social studies through vocabulary development, sentence structure, morphology, and all of the components of literacy. In addition, this year, we have adopted the DIBBLS, Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills, and that is in both English and Spanish. So Lectura is the Spanish version. And we administer that 3 times, and we're doing it K-5. So it is a universal screener that's also helping to inform not only Tier 1, but our Tier 2, which is our interventions within the sites as well. We also have continued to grow with our reading specialists and now look at beyond Tier 1, what are the intervention models that they're using and how do we target students and keep them moving.
I get tagged in. And I want everyone here to look at the very first bullet that's up there under reflection. And if you notice, that's the same exact bullet from the elementary. And just how important it is over the past 3 years, we have really focused on Tier 1 instruction. Because one of the questions that I'm sure it's coming from you is like, okay, what can you attribute the growth from, right? That's everybody's asking that, yes. Yes, but my name is Pedro Caldera. I'm the Director of Secondary Education. I almost feel I have to turn around to do that. But thank you. And that being said, it's just very important that, you can't necessarily pinpoint the exact reason for the growth, but you can attribute part of it to a focus. The focus being this, and everything else that we do falls behind that in terms of our secondary adoption for English, what we're doing at the middle schools with regards to professional development. It all comes together with this one focus. So I just want to be very clear on that. But as you see there, we have IXL implementation grades 6 through 9. We've been very consistent with that and practicing that across all our middle schools and hitting it hard in 9th grade as well. We have the smarter balance in term assessments that were used as district common assessments at the junior high. Along with that, we're starting to use them at the high school level as well. So knowing this in terms of making sure that our high school students are practicing the exact same test or the SBAC test in their 9th, 10th grade is only preparing them for them when they take it their 11th grade year. They get that practice. And in the past, it wasn't necessarily like that. So same focus. And with that, I can stand up here and talk forever, but I really shouldn't because I can tend to become long-winded. But we do have 2 folks here that I would like to invite just to share what they're doing with the high school. Mr. Hesse, if you don't mind. And then also Hollis and Cerro that's been working with our middle schools. Oh, and Eric, yes, yes.
Everybody. Yeah, just echoing a lot of the things that, I'm Doug Esty, by the way. Sorry. Oh, I'm learning. So I'm a PV English teacher. I'm also academic lead for MTSS. And some of you have been on my AP research panels, and you might want to block my email because you're going to get hit up again. But yeah, I think, and some of the teachers that have already spoken tonight, I think we're all trying to get students engaged and connect with students. And I think that's first and foremost, making kids feel comfortable in our rooms and feel ready to learn. And I think also we're trying to adopt increasingly at the high school level connection to that assessment landscape that they see in CASP, while we also stay connected to the things we want to do in our own rooms, specific to those rooms. And really kind of create that fluency so they can move from our work out to that CASP space and be successful and feel like it's not a big jump. I know we're doing different incentive programs too across the district. I can speak for PV. It's been really neat, the PBIS push and the Stugo assistance in that to get students feeling recognized for being test takers. Getting some snacks and beverages never hurts, right? To feed people, fuel people. Doing different kinds of incentives, some grade-based incentives, which tend to talk the most sometimes to students, but also some fun, ones that involve like being in a raffle to try to get free prom tickets and free yearbooks and good stuff like that. So I think also our admin team helping us feel fluent as proctors when it's time to, do those assessments, making sure we feel oriented to the testing space. I need reminders personally sometimes, and then sometimes something changes. Always good too. Matt Kerman was walking PV through just, hey, let's get back into Tom's, because sometimes I wait too long to do that, and then I'm hitting Matt up, and he's like, come on, Hesse. So these are good things too. And there's always, room, like Heather was mentioning, we want to keep moving forward too. And exciting things that we could think about in the future. Getting excited about maybe some possible tech platforms that might be a little user-friendly, a little more user-friendly in the future, that might make it easier for teachers to kind of like give kids a CASP-like experience, but then also take that same assessment vehicle and make it really specific to their course content, but not make it hard. Sometimes tech, it gets a little outdated sometimes, and we want things to be a little bit faster on the clicks. And so, but like, there's, I think, a lot of good things going on. Like I'm a little bit under the weather too, so I think I'm going to repeat myself, and I could be long-winded as well. So maybe I'll like step out for a second and let Erica say something. But get in here, Eric.
Hi, I'm Erica Bloschke. I'm an English teacher at Marsh, and I'm the MTS lead there. English, when it comes to language arts, it's not a linear path. We circle around. So coming up with the answer was really looking at what are we doing. And one of the things for junior high is working along with Hollis and Cerro, my cohort here, is about really working on consistency. And with IXL, it's not just giving the diagnostic, it's looking at each of the junior highs, what do we do with the results and how do we continue to meet the students' needs? And that's individual goals students are able to have set for them through IXL. So we address that and encourage them to work on those skills. And then also we can do whole class instruction and also what do we do to incentivize them and motivate them instead it's not just doing a rote, program by themselves. So we get a lot of support, I think, from the district by having our IXL rep, doing webinars with us. When we have questions, we're able to bring it right to IXL. So that consistency across the 3 junior highs, I think, has really been strong because we may do things a little differently at each school for what we do with IXL, but the fact is we're all doing something. The other thing was collaboration. Hollis and I just came from working at Chico Junior. We are doing the district writing assessment, Common Right for 6th, 7th, and 8th. So we are in the thick of it. We are doing 3 trainings this week where we've been already given the test to the students. So now we're going like, what do we do when we evaluate it? How do we assess it? How are we consistent with the rubric? And the rubrics are coming straight from CASP, and we're using their resources so that the students aren't getting shocked in May. I know my husband's an elementary teacher, and I'm seeing now where he went from junior high to elementary recently, and I'm going, wow, you guys are really doing a lot of things. And I'm seeing now how we're building on that in the junior high, where we're using the same materials or similar materials. But also what we do need more is just continuing that collaboration of now what do we do when we get those results. And I just want to say one other thing is I know our principals are really supportive when we're wanting to try new things. And same thing when we go to MTSS. And so just the PLCs have also been just a great place to, sometimes we are just dealing with the assessments or day-to-day or venting. But we're trying out new things. Just to give an example from Marsh, I'm a technology person. I love to go learn new tech stuff. There's some interesting things where students can do writing and get some instant feedback, and gamified and motivating. And I think that's an area to continue where we need that collaboration time, where it's, yeah, we're doing assessments and testing, but man, you give those kids some creative writing things and they are lighting up. So again, collaboration, I think, is just the best thing, is constantly just bringing together. And Chico Junior, Bidwell, and Marsh English teachers are just, we come together a lot. So, if you have any questions?
I do, if you don't mind. One of the bullet points up here is about reading, writing instructional cycles that are oriented towards the performance tasks. On the, can you tell me a little about what those look like?
For the performance tasks for the writing that they just did?
Yeah.
So they are now taking the junior high just did it recently in January. We had a window where 6th, 7th, and 8th grade had to give the assessment. It took like at least 4 days. And so now we are scoring that using the interim system for CASP and using, just like I said, their rubrics. And then we'll be getting the results for our students. And then from there, we're going to have to plan, what do we see? What are the trends? What can we do now to continue to help them grow before they get assessed again in the spring? Yes, absolutely.
If you don't mind, I think, were you asking about the in progress?
Who are you, brother?
Oh, I'm Hollis Sincero, and until recently, I was teaching at Bidwell, and now I'm a teacher on special assignment, and I'm helping support K-12 with curriculum and assessment. And so it's been pretty exciting. Mr. Lando, were you referring to the Marsh pilot?
Yes.
Point. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to speak on that because I went to an assessment conference back in October, and it was really exciting. In fact, I came back on Monday and I blew up Tim's ear and I said, "I'm so sorry, I'm really coming in hot." And he's like, "No, this is exciting." And so one of the workshops that I went to was this idea that we know that our students are going to be asked to write a narrative, an explanatory or informational, argumentative, or opinion piece of writing. And we know that it's going to be in a platform that can be quite tricky. So one of the things that they suggested is that all formal writing should be styled after what that end result would be. And so I asked him if I could work with a group of teachers to try to sort of pilot something where we take what do you already have them do and how could we just model it after what it's going to look like. So giving them a prompt with multiple sources, directions that are often ambiguous, and having them again, for just the formal pieces of writings. For everything else, still have some fun, play with it, enjoy it. But when we want to go from draft or brainstorming all the way to publication, why don't we try making it look more like that end summative test? And so I thought of Marsh because Erica will try anything. It's awesome. And she has 2 colleagues that are newer teachers. And so it seemed like a great opportunity to work with some teachers. And it's been really rewarding so far. And in fact, I was at a session this morning with, or earlier, a math session. Her husband said, "Hey, you know that idea you were talking about with Erica? Well, we're trying it now in my 5th grade classroom." And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what we're talking about. So really just trying to work on building that capacity for being more familiar with that testing platform, but not using their prompts necessarily because they're not high interest, but really taking what are we already doing that kids are loving and pairing it with, a piece of nonfiction or a couple of articles, and then what can they say about it that's meaningful? So that's what we were referring to.
Got it. Thank you for
Yes.
clarifying that. Sometimes we're just getting, this time of year, we have so much with so many things going on. It's like, ooh, I build on what Hollis said. for so long when you give the tests to the kids, the assessments in the spring. There's times when they do the performance task, it is a tiring process. I mean, they have to read, they have to take notes, they have to write an essay in this much time. And I think when Hollis brought some ideas back and we looked at it, we were like, oh, here's some simple note taking. And so the kids don't have that glazed look of what do I do? And so that's why I was willing to jump in. I'm like, if we can give them some tools and some simple ways to access the material and not feel so overwhelmed, then I'm in, and it's going to be kind of messy, but we're trying it. And you know it, and I saw just with the assessment that we just did, that they had a place to start. So
I'm going to ask a question and it comes from my having been able to attend the LCAP student input days that we've had. I think I'm 3 years into being able to go to those. One of the things I've been very impressed with is the depth to which our students get it. And I'm wondering, do we do enough to step aside a bit and tell them why we're doing what we're doing, what we want as an end result, and let them get a view, a picture of why they're being given these different exercises and things. Because I think they get it. And we're not, I don't know whether we're not is a good term, but give them credit for being really, really bright. Our kids are just amazing. And I think we do ourselves and them a disservice by not letting them know what we're up to.
I think that's part of the incentive program and trying to reward kids for working hard. And then even before the testing starts, really making feel recognized for putting that effort forward. And I think, I think, Eileen, it's definitely something that we can always revisit and add to help kids feel like, oh, I get where this is falling in my life and why it's important, not just for me, not just for my immediate classroom, but for our district. I think it's exciting for kids to know that they're playing a part in our district, and as they obviously first and foremost play a part in their own future. And how we use the data and how it helps us be better for the next kids that come through. But it's never a bad thing to keep thinking about that, Eileen, for sure. Yeah.
And I would speak to that. We've been talking about different ways that we can be more intentional and transparent with students about their data. And just for example, the writing assessment that Erica was talking about, just today, we were able to pull up, hey, once they're done and we've scored this is the page that we want to print for all of our students that will show them how they performed so that they can see their data, they can own their data. So when we're talking about IXL, for example, with those diagnostics, we do it 3 times a year, but a lot of teachers are also then regularly updating that and tracking that information as well so that kids see that progress, because that's huge in keeping them motivated to keep going. And so that's something that we've been talking about a lot too. How do we get them to own it and really incentivize it, but also just that intrinsic motivation of, yeah, I may still be below standard, but I just went from red to yellow. That is worth celebrating and working on that as well. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have kind of, well, a different question. So I see that the IXL implementation is grades 6 through 9. And I spoke to Tim and Pedro about this already, that I think it's short-sighted to stop at ninth grade. I believe that, especially since we don't stop testing our kids till 11th grade, and then I know as a classroom teacher, it informed me to know how my kids were reading. Like, I taught English and I was a history major. What classes do kids hate if they're not proficient readers? English and history. And so just out of wanting to make sure that we're reaching kids. And I also, as a reading teacher, that's what I did in high school for most of my career, along with teaching reading or English. I also taught reading. It is never too late to help somebody become a better reader. And there's nothing more profound than doing that. Um, it literally changes the way kids look to help them become proficient readers. And we're doing a disservice if we're not pushing to make sure that all of our students, by the time they graduate, are proficient readers. I would love for everyone to be great mathematicians and writers, but really, and scientists, but really, if we can graduate people who can read, they can take that skill and go from there. And teaching them to be better readers makes them better scientists, better mathematicians, better writers. So I just hope that we'll think about um, not ending at ninth grade. And then the other thing I will say, my husband and I were foster parents for 6 years. And I, when I see that our foster youth and our homeless youth are still not making those gains, and because I do know that our MTSS workers, our MTSS folks are doing amazing work. Um, I guess I want to know, like, what are we doing now for those groups, and what more can we do? Um, and um, and do our staffs know who our foster youth are and our homeless youth are? And if they don't, then what can we do about that? Because I know that our sites are full of compassionate staff, not just teachers, but CSEA members. And I think um, we all know that kids having just one adult that they can turn to can make all the difference. And so I think that needs to be a focus, that we need to do a better job of outreaching to our foster youth and our homeless youth. And I think that will pay dividends.
One couple things I'll bring up about the foster homeless. We have been very fortunate over the last 4 or 5 years to build up our student supports on campus with increased counseling staff, social workers at the community schools. Um, we beefed up our targeted case manager time, and we have a foster and homeless liaison as well. So we have eyes on these kids. We're providing services as needed. Um, it's a hard group to measure because they're very transient. They're in and out of our district, and so the population changes each year. Um, However, we're addressing that via MTSS essentially. And when you ask about do the teachers know who they are, they start off the year looking at that. We use EduClimber to show them who their foster and homeless students are, including pictures.
I just want to say one thing also, chiming in with you, that the foster and the homeless youth that are in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade could benefit from IXL because it might be able to meet them where they are, and help them feel more successful.
Agreed. All right, well, thank you, English folks. You can see the level of collaboration is very high with that group. On to math, and I'm very, very happy to report that we increased our math pretty significantly. And I'm especially happy for this because you've heard me before talk about how we flatlined in math, along with, most of the state, but still it didn't sit well with us. And so to see that 5.1 growth in distance from standard is just outstanding. You can see we're still a low status, but again, it's kind of a different scale than we see with ELA. Math scores in general are much lower. Moving up, or actually, give me one sec. So when we look at ourselves compared to the state, we're 10.5 points higher than the state in distance from standard. We scored better than all but one of our most similar schools around the state. Once again, socioeconomically disadvantaged and students with disabilities increase substantially. And those are, I mentioned earlier, groups that we focus on a lot. Foster youth and homeless, just like in ELA, didn't make the progress that we were after. And 6 of 8 race ethnicity student groups improved as well. So when we look at local math assessments, you can see iReady administered at the elementary and IXL math administered at the secondary, grades 6 through, well, it's really math A through IM1. So when a student's taking IM1, they're taking IXL even if that's their 10th grade year. And you can see a similar pattern as we saw with the ELA, relatively close to our CASP scores. Pretty significant difference in 3rd grade that I mentioned that we saw in ELA as well.
If you don't mind, on this one, the 8th grade scores are really interesting. So our benchmarks for 8th grade show 16% proficiency, and that jumps up to more than double on the CAST. Do we have any idea what's going on?
I'm gonna, our math folks, they'll, is it okay if she answers it when she comes? Yeah, go.
I would just, my name is Melanie Perrin. Oh, yes, I was going to. My name is Melanie Perrin. I'm a 6th grade math teacher at Chico Junior. The 8th graders, when they take this, are not like invested in it. They have a hard time seeing why they're doing it. And so I would say that at the younger grades, we can get them to take it seriously, but they have taken it for 2 years now and they're very uninterested in it. It's more of an age thing than a knowledge base thing, I would say.
But somehow they're motivated then to do better on the actual end of the year
Yes,
test.
and I would say that has a lot to do with, we do at our school and at some of the other junior highs reward students for their growth through PBIS for making growth on the CAFS test. And so I think that they see like the big picture of that, but the smaller like day-to-day things are harder for junior high kids, just in general.
Okay, so at the school level, we had 10 of 12 elementary schools increase achievement in math. And again, 4 of 5 of our comprehensive secondary schools improving. And I'm going to turn it over once again to Heather Cifuentes.
Okay, so when we looked at this and we thought about what was a factor in our increase in math, one of the biggest pieces was our commitment to literacy and making that movement from literacy into different content areas. The language. And so when we see that rise in our literacy scores, we're attributing that as well to, it was kind of a bigger bang for our buck. We got it on both of them. And so now where we are is we're really diving in to math as a district, and in the elementary team, we've put we're shifting our focus a little bit into what was a model that worked for us, that got teachers trained and understanding different strategies. And that is now with our math team, started in August. So we have a representative from each of the elementary schools. And we started our focuses in the district-wide day to start to sprinkle in what are tier 1 routines that are starting to enhance math instruction across all of our grade levels. So that's a big, exciting one. We had a math day all day today. And we're pumped up. We have some admin on the team and representation from all of them. And again, we're looking at what do we believe to be true. So we've created a math vision for elementary that's starting to drive our force forward. that then will be enhanced by our math adoption. So we kind of flipped the script a little bit in terms of it's not going to be the materials that drive us. It's really our teachers in the classrooms and their understanding of math instruction, the shifts in the frameworks, and how to best implement that to have our students learn at the highest levels.
So where are we on the adoption process right now?
Great question. So I really wanted to just like grab something and adopt, but we're taking a lot of time. There were over 50, I think, approved on the official list from K-12. We started in December. Our math team met with collaboration from BCOE, and we created a math screener, a screening tool based off of our philosophy and the vision of a lot of discussion from August until December as to what our instructional model should look like now. We used that screener in December. Here in this room, we had speed rounds and looked at 20 curriculums that had met the original criteria of our couldn't live withouts. We've since narrowed it down to 4 from that and are now talking with the publishers and understanding the materials so that we can get them into more teachers' hands, get some more feedback with the goal of a pilot starting in next fall. And so we would narrow it down to 2, and we do a pilot next fall, and next year at this time, we would be adopting a new curriculum. All along, learning and building our capacity with our instructional strategies.
Okay, I know that there's going to be a lot of questions with regards to the math adoption for junior high and high school. So I'll focus on this first and we'll jump into that. All right, good. So we have been focusing a lot on building thinking classrooms. It started off a year ago in the summertime, and it has taken off what I feel like a life of its own, to the point where we will be having a professional, well, actually a building thinking classroom PD in April. That's going to be with our elementary programs as well, middle school and high school. How much do you know about building thinking classrooms? Building.
It's a program called Building Thinking Classrooms. by
So
Chico.
really quick, and I'm not gonna give it justice, but at least to let you know, the way math was traditionally taught was a sit and get. That is no longer the model. Now students stand up, work on anywhere in the classroom, working on problems openly, on whiteboards, for example, where other students can look at to see, oh, wait a minute here, I see what you're doing. Oh, I didn't think about that. So it's continuous and students are learning on the spot. And the fact that they're moving actually helps with the learning. And I think I shared this at the last board meeting. It's kind of like going back to total physical response. When you move, it helps with learning. So just wanted to go with that. But up here, in terms of reflection, we've had a lot of time to think about why our math scores went up. And it's interesting because we were going through a math adoption cycle and mindset where we're looking at least at the middle school and high school, we had CPM. And now we're looking to say, okay, wait a minute here, what is truly working for us? It always comes down to top piece bullet right there where it's intense, focused, professional development on collaboration, classroom instruction with tier 1. Meaning, yes, you have a curriculum, but how you deliver that curriculum is the most important piece. And the relationship you build with the students through those engagement strategies. And of course, then the state the state testing practices that we do with SBAC. And so we do those as well. And then I already discussed building thinking classrooms, but I do want to have our teachers that are here today. Melanie Perrin, please come on up. She's going to represent our middle school. Then we have, oh yeah, Michelle Long, please come on up
It's like,
from Bidwell. You're here. You're gonna, yes. And also Camille Upton from Chico High. And before they speak, I cannot say this enough. I remember sitting in MTSS my very first time back when it used to be called DLC. And it was the most incredible feeling when these individuals that we have behind me looked at the test scores and they were upset and angry and competitive because they didn't like him and they truly want to do something. And so they live and breathe improvement, which is very important when you're sitting on an MTSS team because we're always trying to improve. Yes, we've improved already, but it doesn't stop there. We got to continue, right? Okay, so with that.
So I would say that some of the things we have focused on at the junior high is, like Pedro said, the professional development, focusing on the standards, not the curriculum that we're given, but the standards that we need our students to understand. And then also, how do we work together so that all of the students at our school are getting taught those standards? Um, Building thinking classrooms came into like my life a couple years ago, and it really made me think about math in a different way because students don't typically love math class, and didn't like it either, and now I teach it, and so I want them to understand why I love it so much now. So that really was a way for us to change up our classrooms at the junior high, where kids need to stand up, they need to think, and they need to feel safe when they're solving problems. And that's like the main thing in my classroom and classrooms throughout our district, that math teachers want their kids to feel safe while learning these new standards. And so I think creating that relationship with them and helping them to understand math better has been really great. Another thing that is something we have done at Chico Junior and is kind of spreading is we have implemented small groups instruction in our math classes, 6th through 8th grade. Gail came today and actually saw it in progress. And so what happens is we levelize our students and we're able to give them everything they need at their level 2 days a week, while we teach our other 3 days a week, we teach whole class. And so it's been a way to help students that have never felt successful in class feel some success. I've had 8th grade teachers who tried it out and had these aha moments with these kids who never asked questions before. And they were like, Melanie, they asked me a question. And I was like, I'm so excited. So I feel like that has also really led to the increase in our scores too, for students to feel like they can do things and showing them that they have that opportunity to feel successful. So that's. Oh, yes. And then I have also been the lead on the adoption process for the junior highs. So we started last school year because we really felt the need for we knew it was coming, we knew what the new standards were, and we were excited to have the opportunity to get a new curriculum. The 6th grade classes have been sitting with CPM, which meets the standards partially, and so we've been having to supplement a lot at the 6th grade level. So me being the ringleader that I am, I'm like, let's get this going. And so we created a rubric last year at the junior high level based on what we wanted to see in a curriculum. We then had some curriculums come to us last year and present to us. We did a survey of the junior high staff, which ones we thought we would want to pilot this year. We chose 2 to pilot, Carnegie Learning and Mid-School Math. And we piloted those. The feeling was that we weren't like in love with those 2 yet. And so we brought in an additional presenter just in January. They came in and tried something new with our staff. It's Imagine I Am Learning. They came in just last week, 3 teachers, one from each junior high. Took a day, we learned how to teach a lesson using that curriculum, and then we taught that lesson in our class and invited the other junior high teachers to come in and observe us. So right now we're at the process where we're gonna vote in the next couple of weeks, and then maybe next month we'll have some information for you on that. Okay.
I don't know how this works. My name is Michelle Long. I'm at Bidwell Junior High. I'm a 6th grade math teacher, an MTSS coordinator, and a state testing site coordinator as well. So I wanted to bring a little bit about how much I interact with all of the different subjects at our school, the science, the English, and the math, and how we do state testing prep more like. We do a lot of interim prep. We have the English doing their interim assessments, but science and math really take on a lot of the interim preps, and interims are short and condensed versions of the state test. So the kids actually get into the exact system, get to see what their accommodations, their supports are with their IEP or their 504, and they get to see the system actually in use. So it's not, oh my gosh, May, here's this program that I have to figure out all these questions. I've never seen it before. They know how to log in. They know the supports. They know where the calculator is for math. They know how to highlight, how to strike through, all those different things that doesn't get in the way for them. So that was a really big help, I think, especially in science, for the 8th grade science, for them to go through, because it's 3 years of science in one 8th grade test. So they saw a huge jump in their science scores this year. And I really attribute that to the interims that we're trying to really work with the kids. We can have them do the interims by themselves and do it as a real thing, or we can actually open up the interims as a whole class and say, hey, here's this big problem. Let's solve it as a class. What do you think? And even bring in the building thinking classrooms and say, go to the boards and let's see what you guys do and look at each other. So that was a big part for our instruction that we really loved.
Wheel's going to speak with regards to the high school adoption, how we slowed it down and so we adopt next year.
Well, I'm also going to speak a little just about high school math and some of the things we've done. So I'm Camille Upton. I'm the department chair math at Chico High. I'm also the MTSS math lead for the district. And I guess in a way, the adoption lead for the curriculum that we are dealing with. So really in math, we kind of boiled it down to three main things: motivation, academics, and data. So motivation wise, the difficult thing at the high school level is that the students don't take the test till they're in 11th grade. So it's been several years of not taking the test. So we really kind of sat down and thought about how can we motivate the kids, fun external things. Gary Story, our vice principal at Chico High, was wonderful in helping us because he took over testing, and we've done motivational pieces. We've offered grade boosts. We've put together an informational poster that every teacher posted at the door when the kids walked in. What does this do for you? How does it help you with your seal of biliteracy? How does it help you with your college entrance tests? All these things that the kids don't realize that CASP scores help them with. When it came to academics, we have started to implement building thinking classrooms. We know that it started at the junior high level, and one day in one of our DLC meetings, when it was called DLC, Pedro said, how are we going to see this continue? And I said, I'll order the book right now and we'll get it going. And so we took a team. A couple math teachers from the high school went to the training along with junior high teachers, and we've been trying to implement it. And this year, as Pedro said, we're bringing Kim Rimby in on April 8th and 9th. We're opening it up to the elementary as well. She is one of the 6 official trainers with BTC, and she's going to be doing a 2-day session workshop for the teachers, which will be really great. And we obviously have focused on the academic portion in the classroom, looking at essential standards, looking at do we need to rearrange the curriculum slightly to better fit what's being paced, and the data that we're getting from them in terms of, statistics is one of those concepts that's kind of spread throughout the curriculum, but it's sprinkled, and how much of that shows up on the test and things like that. And then data analysis is a big thing for us. Rewind back to 2024, January, looking at data, sitting there thinking, why is this not working? And I focused in on the Math 3 students. Now, Math 3 students are official 11th graders if they are on grade level. So you may have some Math 3 students that are advanced, but on grade level 11th graders should be in Math 3. They should be the students that are knowing the material some of the best, right? Their scores were very, very low. And so I started to think, what is going on? Well, the test is adaptive. So the test starts you off very low. And as you score and answer questions, it builds you higher and higher. And I started to think about the fact that our students are never getting assessed on the Math 3 knowledge that we are teaching them, and they are doing well on if they don't remember the knowledge from elementary school and junior high. And so I reached out to Tim and Pedro and said, hey, is there any way at Chico High we can start implementing IXL just at the math 3 level. Now, granted, IXL is available 6, 7, 8. We also give it to our Math C students, which is technically an 8th grade course, but at the high school, some kids are in remedial, and our Math 1 students as well, which is an on grade level 9th grade. So we gave it starting very bare bones right around February, right before the test in 2024, and our IM3 teachers have continued it since and have really found that it's helping the juniors on grade level, as well as any other students in the class, kind of fill in those gaps from before. And so the data has been really helpful in terms of progressing those kids forward. Yes.
Can you tell me, like, what does that look like when you say IXL for math? Like,
Sure.
what does that look like if I'm an 11th grader who is, how is that helping me? What am I seeing
Sure.
that is helping me? I totally get your
Mhm.
concept of like, it's been so long since I looked at that. I don't even remember what it was, but I know that I knew it at one point. But I just was curious, what is it?
Yeah,
'Cause
so the IXL requires an initial diagnostic that the children take within the first 2 weeks of school. That gives the teacher a baseline knowledge for the kid, as well as a baseline knowledge that's informed to the child itself. The teachers are then able to assign both curricular tasks, and IXL does currently align with our current CPM curriculum. So we can pull tasks that are in the moment. We're in the middle of a unit on systems of equations, and we can pull that and offer that as a warm up or a cool down, or assign the task as a homework. But also IXL has a arena where the students are encouraged to then go in and do a non-task that is, I'm not saying this right, but is a task that is off curriculum. So something that shows up recommended. Thank you. I was trying to remember what it's called. So it could be something in 2nd grade. It could be something in 5th grade. It could be any topic that the diagnostic is showing that they're struggling in, and so they can do something specific to the content at the time, but they can also do stuff previous. So our teachers assign different things throughout the week. There's no set structure for like this many per week. It kind of depends on the flow of the week. If you have assessments or you have an event or something. But our teachers use it regularly. A lot of them will use different ones as warm-ups with the whole class. They'll pull up one and they'll do an activity as a whole class. Yes.
I'm one of those, I hate math.
Mhm.
Three students in your class that are trapped in that kind of, I don't get it. Are you able to target those students with whatever it is your diagnostics have said, this is where they don't have the basic knowledge to be able to be successful, so that you've got that group in a holding pattern? I don't want to make, no, that's not good, because you don't want them bored. But at least you know that you have to pay attention to those students until they get those skills, so that they aren't as frustrated as I get with math, in order to get brave enough to start and participating in the exercises.
Yeah, I think it's not so much, and I'll use your words, a holding pattern. I think it's a remediate as you go. So as a skill is introduced in the class, if there's a prerequisite skill that the child is struggling with, then we can do a one-on-one, we can do an extra reteach. Sometimes it's a skill that actually the majority of them struggle with, fractions. They all really struggle with fractions, and that's not a Math 3 standard. It's not even a high school standard, but we reteach it. So oftentimes our teachers have gone through and looked at all the curriculum. We actually have a document going around right now at Chico High. We did it several years ago and we're revisiting, where I asked all of the the course specific teachers to identify academically what are your children coming to you lacking based on what the curriculum expects, and as a student, what are they coming to you, and what do you expect of them when they walk through the door, so that we can identify. Maybe several years ago when we did this, we created a small unit on laws of exponents and rearranged things so that we remediated stuff before the content was then needing you to know that. So if that answers your question.
I visited a classroom at Bidwell a few years ago and walked in and observed a teacher in the room. And as she went through her process, you began to see light bulbs going off. You know, kids just all of a sudden, it was like, oh, yeah, I get it. And I watched her move through concepts and things that I never got. And yet, by the time I finished that 30-minute observation in that classroom, I was going, oh my God, I wish I'd have had that teacher when I was in 4th grade. There's a gift, I know. And I know you guys are getting support to bring your gifts forward. But I still just, check in with what you do. You check in with your kids and find out where that key is. It was like the teacher who finally found where the key to understanding algebra was for me. And it was, because I'd failed it several times. And then got that teacher who absolutely told me right up front, you are not going to fail. You are going to understand this before we get finished. And when I passed that algebra class, it was like, okay, I'm done with school now.
Well, Chico Unified is very fortunate to have a wonderful collection of math teachers, and every site also has an MTSS lead that also helps. Jeff I work alongside him, and we identify students who are struggling so that no one falls through the cracks. And we work as a team to try to help those kids and reach out to their teachers. Jeff does an amazing job. And then just to speak briefly, because Pedro told me to about the adoption, we are also in the adoption cycle. We originally started the same time frame as the junior highs. We ran into a little bit of snafu with just kind of some concern over funding and feeling like we needed a little bit more time. Now, high school curriculum is not K through 8. It is not a state adopted curriculum. We do not have to meet the list, the magical list that's out there, but we try to focus on that and try to pick a curriculum that also blends lovely with the junior highs. So we are actually delaying ours 1 year. We're going to look at an additional curriculum. We piloted 2 curriculums in the fall, Carnegie Learning and McGraw-Hill. Kind of felt, both were very on polar opposites and kind of wanted to see if there was something that meshed in the middle. In March, we're going to have another presentation from another curriculum group to come through and obviously kind of see where the junior highs land and then try to think of the best transition for those 8th graders becoming 9th graders. We don't want a big gap in the curriculum. So we're going to look at what the standards being taught in what order once they decide. So anything else?
I was just going to ask, first of all, thanks for being an awesome teacher. You've had a couple of my kiddos or currently, and they love you. So thank you. Do the kids get to weigh in on the piloted programs?
Yeah, so we've
or the
put out,
curriculums?
we've gotten a lot of feedback from them and asked them questions along the way. You could definitely feel some of the feeling in the room when we started with the first pilot and the first online activity. And so that immediate feedback, just the observational and the environment, you can tell when they're kind of feeling this isn't really for me. So we immediately kind of shifted gears and said, okay, we're going to kind of scale back a little. And we started to blend back in CPM just because we weren't really feeling too great about that. We then ended our pilot a little earlier because we did not feel like it was the best choice based on kid feedback and observation. But now moving forward, If we choose to pilot some more, then it would be another case where having the kids kind of give some input. I did also reach out to Chico State and Butte College, the heads there, and talked through what our students are presenting to them when they get up at their levels and what are they lacking in, so that we can try to adjust our curriculum and choose appropriate curriculum that will prepare them for Butte College and Chico State, at least because they're our neighbors. So.
Another thought I had, do you collaborate at all? I mean, we have a fair amount of charter schools that then transition to the high schools. Do you collaborate with them at all as far as just sort of that smooth transition from a curriculum that they've adopted to the secondary high school curriculums?
You know, I personally have not had the opportunity to interact with a lot of the charter schools. We do vertical articulation with our junior highs. It would be wonderful to do so. We actually have a new teacher over at PV that came from Core Butte, and so we've been able to hear some of the things that they've offered over there. But that's something to definitely consider to make it more of a community feel for all of Chico.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the, I know some teachers and administrators have already left, but I want to appreciate your time tonight. I know you taught, and I know you don't have to be here. And I just really appreciate you coming. There's no replacement. Tim couldn't do this. Pedro couldn't do this. Heather couldn't do this. So thank you so much for you guys taking the time to be here. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
I want to echo that thank you for being here, and giving such a good report out on what's going on in those departments. I also, yeah, they're they weren't waiting for
And Chico High made it to green in math. I just have.
while we're on the topic of MTSS leads, and you can see what a amazing group they are. Christy Bankson is the leader of that group as MTSS lead. She leads all the meetings, keeps everybody organized, puts together logistics for our professional development, does elementary reading training, and on and on and on. So just wanted to take a moment to recognize her work, because it's very, very important to the progress in Chico Unified.
I had one more question.
Yeah.
Oh, did you want to go first? Go ahead, go. Oh, wait. And maybe this would have been more appropriate to ask the teachers, but I mean, obviously we're seeing some great growth. Any thoughts on if you feel like the block schedule at the secondary level has contributed any to that? I mean, I know Chico High's been at it a little bit longer than PV, but.
That's really hard to say.
Okay,
But
fair.
you know, Pedro mentioned it's hard to pick out one thing. We didn't see an increase initially. The differences that we've seen, um, the differences that we've seen in the instruction and how the departments operate, that leading up to these scores was the big thing: building thinking classrooms, IXL, and the way that Camille and Melanie, who you heard from, presented those and ran those at their sites. So it's a pleasure to work with that group.
Tim, can I add one more thought to your question, Rebecca, about the block schedule? We just talked about this yesterday, and I don't have any proof about this, but I firmly hold the belief that the block schedules afforded kids more opportunities to pick different classes that they might not have necessarily been able to put into their schedule before. And as we know, that adds to a sense of belonging. It just really it improves their desire to want to be at school in general and connection. So I don't have any scientific proof for that, but I do see that with students.
The other question I had in regards to the, I think it was the chronic absenteeism, so I am sure I understand here that, I mean, it didn't seem like we scored particularly well in that category. Is that, again, comparing us to other schools? Are we that far?
Yeah, I'll be covering that in a second, and I can give you more details. Okay, so moving on, continuing with our academic indicators, the English Learner Progress Indicator, and this measures how much our EL students are growing on their state ELD test, English Language Development Test each year. We saw a significant increase this year. We're up 4.5% of students meeting the criteria for this. We are 3.3 percentage points higher than the state. So you can see English learners and long-term English learners showed excellent growth. Moving on to the college and career indicator. I mentioned this earlier. This is a wide variety of criteria that the state has used to identify students as college and career ready. We're really proud of our 2.5% increase. We're at 50.3%. This is one of the pieces where we are behind the state. So we're 1.4%, and we have some ideas about that. One being our college courses that we want to make sure that we're working on getting those coded so that we get credit on this. We feel like we're kind of leaving that out and not getting credit for all the good work that's being done with dual enrollment.
Don't leave it
and
out.
college course.
Don't leave it out.
All right, and the science indicator reflects the CAS test, the California Science Test. We are green. You can see we maintain there at about increase of 1.4 points. This is a new indicator. Like I said earlier, I expect it to be part of the accountability piece of the dashboard next year. And we just don't have a lot of context, but what I will say, we scored significantly better than similar districts. And we're 5.4 points above the state. So we're very happy with that performance. Sure.
I'm looking at the college and career indicators again.
Mhm.
And while I do love the growth, it's interesting that overall, in terms of English language progress, ELs and long-term ELs made all this growth. And then looking at their college and career indicators, those are two of the groups that decreased. Do we have any idea why that is and what we can do to continue to encourage our English learners to be more ready for job in college as they graduate?
ELD is not my area.
Yeah.
But
Definitely
Pedro
answer
can.
help with that. As we get to the high school level, depending on the ELD proficiency level in the class that they have, they still have to have at least one class of ELD.
Yeah.
And they have to be served. That being said, depending once again whether it's ELD1, ELD2, and or ELD3, as they progress during those 4 years of high school, it limits the amount of electives that they have. So they get one elective, right, per year versus your regular student who is not an EL, they get 2. So as they progress through there, the opportunities are lessened. And so that's what I believe is part of that. And then it hits the long-term ELs because some of the long-term ELs don't get reclassified.
I hear that. I'm just wondering what we can. I mean, but the way you describe it there is, okay, they have fewer options for electives. And so what do we do about that is the question we ought to be asking ourselves, right? Like, are we just going to accept structurally they're just going to always be decreasing? I don't.
There are 2 things. I should probably describe the long-term ELs. Long-term ELs usually are students who are also on IEPs. So they're ELs and also an IEP student. So that really limits what they can take in terms of electives. But with regards to the English learners, that is all dependent upon how soon they reclassify. If they reclassified their freshman year, well then great, wonderful. Then they have 2 opportunities to work within the CTE programs, if you will. and or take those other classes. But if we have students that are coming into Chico Unified as juniors, that becomes extremely difficult. Or even sophomores, that becomes extremely difficult to progress and get those opportunities. We got to get their English down first. And getting students reclassified in 3 years is extremely difficult. So in other words, if you have students coming from a Spanish-speaking country and they're getting here, their sophomore year, or even their freshman year, it's extremely difficult to transition them or have them reclassify within 2 or 3 years. Very rare.
And, oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I also wonder, because when you look back at even the ELA and the math scores and the academic language that they need to have, that if they're struggling with English learning in general, and then struggling with the English language academic math and reading, that moving on to college career readiness might be more of a challenge for those students as well.
And I do want to state that it doesn't stop them from going to college. So just want to make sure that that's clear.
But it could feel kind of overwhelming for them
is,
to
yeah.
go to college.
I always equated it as a race. I was an ELD teacher at Chico High for many, many years, and it was a race when I had students coming in as sophomores or juniors without any English, and them having to learn a new language was extremely difficult. And they did not, back then when it wasn't block schedule, they did not have electives because they needed to make sure, well, I want to make sure that they learned the English language first. So just depends. So many variables.
I'll add just from a statistical standpoint, the sample size or the N size is very small. When you look at one grade level of 12th graders and the number of ELs and long-term ELs, it's very small and it swings easily. Okay, moving on to academic engagement with chronic absenteeism and graduation rate. So chronic absenteeism has been a major issue across the state since COVID. We saw, up until this year, we saw significant drops each year. This year, we essentially flattened out. We stayed basically the same. You can see that we're orange up there. We're still lower than the state. And lower is better, yes. So the lower you go, the closer you get to blue. So we're still above our pre-COVID chronic absenteeism numbers. However, we have significant resources aimed at getting kids to school more often.
So this is the slide where we want to see maintained or declined.
Correct. Looking at graduation rate, you can see we stayed about the same. We're at 90.6. We're 2.8 percentage points higher than the state. And we saw foster and homeless student groups increase substantially. Kind of along a similar line, those student groups, the number of students that are in 12th grade each year is pretty small. So this can swing, and this happened to swing in a positive way. All right, so suspension rate is our last indicator. And this is kind of along the same lines of chronic absenteeism. We stayed about the same. We are a little bit higher than the state, but we've stayed the same. We have seen an increase of a variety of behaviors in the last handful of years. And again, we have significant resources, including counseling services, home outreach via our targeted case managers, and social workers. We do have a lot of resources. We'd like to see that go down, obviously, though. So I saved the most boring part for last, which is the state and federal accountability. So sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about first district accountability, and that's differentiated assistance. So the dashboard, there's rules that govern who qualifies for differentiated assistance and the other categories based on dashboard results. We have fallen into differentiated assistance despite the positives that I've shown. What that means is we work with the county and they kind of check on us to make sure we have an improvement plan. Just to give a little context, 81% of California Unified School Districts are in differentiated assistance. The student groups that qualified us were American Indian and Alaska Native, homeless, and foster, which we've talked about earlier. At the school level, we can have schools can qualify as CSI, or comprehensive support and improvement, targeted support and improvement, or additional targeted support and improvement. It's a confusing system. I wish I had different news for you, but it's confusing. They're all very similar. So comprehensive support and improvement is one that looks at as a metric that looks at all the performance of all students on your dashboard. So not the individual student groups, they just look at all students. You can see the qualifications are a low grad rate or not less than the lowest performing 5% of Title I funded schools. The way they select that lowest 5% is on this slide, criterion 1 through 3. So basically they're looking for red indicators on the dashboard. We had Fairview exit CSI and Center for Alternative Learning enter CSI. So there is money attached to CSI. Cal will get CSI funding this year. Targeted support and improvement is based on, go ahead. Three. So targeted support and improvement, no additional funding. This is based on student group performance. Schools qualify based on their indicators. A lot of red in student groups will qualify you. These sites up here that you can see qualified for TSI, we're required to report this to the board. One thing I will say is at the site level, sites go in and out of all of these metrics. Again, a lot of it comes down to the size of the group that we're measuring. So at a site level, it gets pretty small and things swing. Additional targeted support improvement is the last category that schools can qualify for, and that's based on, it's very similar to targeted support and improvement, just add to the confusion of the system, based on similar indicators. And we have Chico High exiting ATSI this year, and remaining is Marsh. So, and just to wrap up in a nutshell, a lot to celebrate tonight. We outperformed the state in all but 2 indicators. We're very, very pleasantly surprised with, or not surprised, but very happy with our academics, our academic results. But like Pedro said, there's nobody that's not working to improve things as much as we possibly can. We made significant progress on closing achievement gaps, in particular the socioeconomically disadvantaged and students with disabilities. I would say especially the students with disabilities, that growth is amazing. And I want to celebrate that right now. That's a huge success for Chico Unified, and we hope to see it continue. when we compare our academics to other similar districts around the state, we look very, very good. And those are, you know, similar demographics. Every town's a little different, but that's the closest we can do when we look for similar schools around the state. So with that, I will leave you. The dashboard website is linked here. There's a website with all the information and my email. I'm happy to meet with any of you to talk about more of the details. Believe it or not, there's a lot more. Just let me know if you want to look at it. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
I wanted to say, and I brought this up to you personally, you know, there's a saying that says, if you compare yourself to others, you'll either be vain or despondent, right? And I think really comparing ourselves to ourselves is the most, you know, important factor. So it's wonderful to see how many areas we had growth in since last year.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, I mean, it's great to be ahead of the state in areas where it's nice to be ahead of the state or to be at the top of similar schools. But really, that's less important to me than seeing that our own kids grew, you know, from year over year.
Absolutely.
And that's
agreed.
really a
Yeah.
testimony of what's happening in our schools. So I'm really pleased to see that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I agree with that. So we've you've been entertaining a lot of our questions already, but does anyone have any additional questions for Tim?
Not a question, but a statement, like Member Hayes. We have seen, you know, I've been around a couple of years and observing the collaboration and the intensity of the commitment from staff. And I'll speak of certificated staff because that's what I've observed more. That has grown in the last 10 years, and that's through COVID. You know, we got hit hard with the impact of what that did to us. But our staff didn't give up on our kids. And I so appreciate what I've seen at all levels of our staff who they care about the kids. And then going to the LCAP meetings and listening to the kids talk about recognizing how much their teachers care about their success. It's a two-way street that is just so heartwarming. You know, if I understand that people can't get into the schools every day. So for those of us that do get to go observe, to report out what we see is important. And what I see is so gratifying for all of our students, from our, you know, our significantly disabled students who are getting amazing help to, you know, to the ones that are at the top of our academic ladder and are just going on to do amazing things in research and other areas as they go off to higher education. It just, I'm so grateful to be a part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you. At this time, do we have any public comment?
We still have Publix.
Okay. So this was information only. We are not taking any action this evening. Since we kind of did things a little bit out of order, we already addressed the member request to agendize item. So do we have a motion? Oh,
We're on number 5.
oh, number 5. I'm so sorry.
Closed session.
Closed session, yes. So at this time, we're going to be moving into closed session. Is there any public that has any comments about what we're going to be talking about in closed session? Okay, so at this time, we'll be heading into closed session. Thank you.